Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay, good morning, everybody. It's kind of good morning, especially if you normally watch late night, and it was kind of different last night. We'll definitely be getting into that, but good morning, everybody. Thank you for sticking around for the Bruce Party episode. It certainly ran long, but it was needed. Didn't want to do a part 3 and a part 4, so kind of just ran with it. So thanks to everybody that stuck around for an extra long episode. It was a lot of fun. What did you think of Bruce?
I love hearing Bruce on the guest. Wealth of information, great perspective, good knowledge, facts to back it up. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
And what do you think about the Constitution itself, the draft for Alberta, the way he's flipped the default, added a lot of limitations on government, etc.?
Good starting points, I believe, for sure. I mean, it was interesting the fact that he'd mentioned, there's no recall in there. Like, there was things purposefully he didn't put in there, and I guess he's coming from the mindset that also, look, there are certain things we have and don't have, and we have examples, globally. And there are things that we realize, no, we don't need, because if we put certain things in place, you don't need subsequent things that, that we're crying for right now, like we desperately want recall. But if you put certain policies and procedures in place to begin with, you're not going to need the things that you think that you need now. So I love the perspective.
I love how direct you were, but you weren't specific. So things and stuff like that, okay, which ones? But you're right. The no recall, that was a bit of a surprise, but I get it. I get the argument there. But short terms, you're only in there for up to 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And it also is ruled by mob. So that's one of the direct democracy tools that does give you the ability for a mob to get together to go ahead and do things. I do like that. The one thing I think is missing, though, is impeachment, which is a way to remove your president. So, example, Amendment 25 of the U.S. is impeachment due to mental incapacitation. So it's not death, it's not resignation.
Right.
But what happens if he goes or he or she goes kooky and doesn't want to leave and is alive? Like, what do you do then? That might be one of the ones that could be brought up, because Amendment 25 itself is pretty specific about that. It has to be mental incapacitation. That might be one of the ones to amend or add in there at the beginning. I did like how there's no classes of citizens anymore. So Indigenous people are exactly the same as everybody else. I also liked how there was that land transfer. So it wasn't crown land anymore. So that would be a way for reservations to continue to be reservations and run as an organization under the new constitution, do their own thing. In fact, they're more sovereign than they currently are under that constitution. I hope people noodle it a bit more and they're not scared about it, because it is very different, something they haven't seen before.
Exactly. And yes, what I did like with the 3-year term, up to 6 years limit for the career. So if you, for example, served as a VP, you're still cutting into your potential of maximum 6 years to be serving. I thought that was very interesting as well, to really make sure that there is no career politicians.
No Supreme Court either. So there's just the 2 levels, which is court, trial court it's called, and then an appeals court. And I think it wasn't really addressed in there, but the appeals court itself shouldn't make law, like be a new decision that is upheld. It should either say the trial court was correct, so it stays, or the trial court was wrong, there was an error, or retry, is what I'm getting at. Having the appeals court being another layer that can't be appealed would be a problem. But having it be a place where you can appeal and then go back to trial and do it again, if that's what's necessary, that creates a system where there isn't a supremacy. Like one level, final decision, no other place to go.
And it just sounds expensive, though, when you talk about retrial.
Well, think about now. You go to the Supreme Court. If you think that's cheap, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's also the Supreme Court may not even hear your case. So that's something that's kind of broken the current system. But expensive or not, or does court, right? That's where disputes are done. Now, if they get out of the business of making law, where the court's decision becomes case law, becomes judge-made law, that would be good. But it'd be interesting to see how that process would happen when the new things come up and legislature, a little bit slower, how that'll be tackled. But I think at the bare bones of it, I like where it's headed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, it is only a draft. And this is the whole point, is that it could be looked at, reviewed, and again, troubleshoot. Sorry.
Yeah, in the comments, go ahead and let us know what you think. Is there
Mhm.
anything that you think was missing? Because probably it's there. It just doesn't necessarily be directly addressed. But let us know what you think about Bruce Party. It was 2 hours. So it was an hour and a half yesterday and then half an hour last week.
Yeah.
So 2 hours to cover this topic, and people online seem to like it.
Yeah, for sure. Because there was a lot to go over, and it is difficult for us to go over it in half an hour segments. So I think everyone appreciated a proper sit down and go over the rest of it together and get it done, and have that full conversation instead of segmented.
Yep. I had to make an executive decision at that point to keep going or not. And sorry, we lost you for a bit, but priority are the kids.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So going on with the homestead.
Oh yeah. My stove is in. It's all set up. All the grills got painted by myself.
Well, those are vents. Yeah.
Dude.
They're vents. They're vents.
But yeah, so stove is all
This is her best behavior, just so you know.
best behavior. Ha! Dude, you've been with me for over 20 years. This is me.
Yeah, I love you.
Yeah, so stove's all done and dusted and fully functioning. Yay.
I even built some venting for the heating. So we now have some venting for that. It's going to work better this winter. Yeah, we're getting ready. We're squirreling away and getting things ready for winter.
Yep. No, exactly. It's all is good there on the home front, and we said that we were going to do the generator next, but we've now reprioritized a little and we'll get the electrical done so that the kids in their space they're all properly hooked. Well, so we're going to be on that next.
Yeah, and ironically, sometimes the leftovers from a project are used in the next project.
Yeah.
It's very true. Like when I did the electrical for the trailer, I'm left with this long piece of 50 amp wire, a 240 50 amp wire, which is absolutely going to be beneficial for the generator project. And I suspect there's going to be some more wire left over from the shelter project, which I may need for the generator as well. So
yes,
it's kind of like everything happens for a reason in a particular order. And yeah, let's get that heat for the kids because it's starting to get chilly at night around here.
Yeah. It's fascinating, the temperature drop. Like we have mid-20s during the day, and then overnight we can have single digits. But we are glorious sunshine. Like September is going strong right now. But yeah, it's getting a bit chilly at night, and the kids want to hang out in the evening. So give them some heat.
For the children.
For the children.
For the children. All right, let's jump into the news because there's a little bit of news today.
It was a fun evening yesterday.
It depends if you watch late night or not.
That's true. We don't. I think it was like, who do we used to watch? Jon Stewart.
Before he got all crazy. So before the Trump stuff, we used to watch him.
When he was winning Emmys and stuff and apparently the Emmys were over the weekend, and like that's just
who knows.
Yeah, I just have no idea about that stuff anymore. But yeah, we used to watch Jon Stewart, and then if we were still awake, we'd catch the Colbert Report. And to me, Colbert,
before the Trump derangement syndrome.
Stephen Colbert, to me, when he was doing Stephen Colbert, like his character, I love that guy. It was hilarious. And then when he stopped doing the Colbert Report and then he became doing late night, I was like, oh, this is who you really are. I don't find you entertaining.
Yeah.
It was a rude awakening for me, the huge disappointment. That'd be like one of those, don't meet your hero type thing. Because if that's who he really was, I was like, wow, I prefer the character you played.
Well, better the devil you know, right? But okay, well, there we go. So we'll get into that part, I'm sure, pretty soon here because we saw that breaking. But we're going to start off with this one post here about Utah prosecution versus Robinson, the shooter. Yeah, he's the shooter. I think pretty much everybody's got that kind of. I want to be careful there. Okay, I'm not taking the position that he didn't do anything wrong or anything like that. We don't actually have video like we do for North Carolina where the stabbing happened. Okay, right. So this has to be a trial. We need to see the evidence come forward. Because I just want to be that 10th guy who says, wait a minute, all 9 of you agree on something. Maybe we should be careful with this. We've been through this so many times. We're going to get into this a lot more with Michael Yon and others about how it's not always the way it seems. In fact, it's rarely ever the way it seems.
Yeah.
So let's just be careful there. But here's what I'm posting here about the Utah prosecution: is they're already making mistakes here. They're making mistakes that will get them into trouble, even if he's convicted, because there is case law in the U.S. and I'll bring it up here. The case law is Supreme Court versus Shepard v. Maxwell, 384 U.S. 333, 1966. This was a ruling from the Supreme Court of the U.S. that said because the media coverage before trial was so high, it was impossible to get a fair trial. And what ended up happening was it was dismissed. So even though there was a conviction, this particular Supreme Court decision says because the prosecution didn't protect the evidence pre-trial, it was impossible to get a fair trial. Okay, this is 1966, and the media is even bigger now. Like it's instant than it was back then. Back then, it was newspapers and radio and some black and white TV. Now it's everywhere all the time, live. And the problem is and you should read this thread, this post, because they absolutely are allowing too much information to go out. It seems like, and this is why I just want to kind of raise this a little alarm here, that they're trying to try this in the public and convince the public. And this worries me because I want a trial. I want to see the trial. And look, guilty is guilty, and let's get through the trial first. But there's some things about this so far that don't add up. There's some questions around it. And if you bring up the questions, you get attacked pretty quickly on it. So go check out Michael Yon. He's highlighting some issues with it. Other people are highlighting issues with it. I'm not alone on this. And I feel like we're in week one of the JFK assassination, where you're supposed to just believe everything that you were told. They found him in the theater. This is a lone gunman, et cetera, et cetera. And it took 70 years. How long ago was that? 50, 60 something years now for us to start getting, more and more of that truth to come out. So we're on week 2 now. It was a week ago today or yesterday. What are we on now? We're in Thursday. Yeah. So a week ago yesterday is when the incident happened. Let's just tread carefully here. Let's be careful because the same people that told us a couple weeks ago the Epstein list doesn't exist are also the same ones that are telling us this is how it went down. And I want to believe everything, but I know from experience that we're at the 80-20 rule. About 80% of it's probably true. The 20% is not. And there's a lot of question marks, even around the text messages. For example, the text messages should not have been sent to the public. That's what this post is about. Because there was no public benefit to hearing it, other than to try and convince us of what's going on. That should have stayed to the trial. We should have heard it come out in the trial. And that's what the Supreme Court decided in 1966. Is the exact same thing. Can't release that information to the public. Now, around the Coots trial, lots of pub bans, lots of stuff we couldn't talk about. And it's also for the same reason, not to taint the jury. Well, look, is it going to be moved out of Utah to a different state because the jury is tainted? They're causing more problems than solutions being solved at this stage when it comes to the prosecution. So that's what this post is about. Pay attention to it.
Yeah, I certainly don't agree because at the end of the day, just because we live in a society where we desire the 24-hour news cycle doesn't mean when it comes to law and criminal cases that needs to be fed. The priority is keep the case as whole as possible. So in order to have it and there's no issues, there's no appeals or that type of thing. But yeah, just because we live in a world where, we need that information now, doesn't mean you need to feed it. In fact, the fact that it's being fed is what encourages it to keep going.
Yeah, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, whatever his title is, he went on media, and that was abnormal. I was really surprised to see him on Megyn Kelly because you're not supposed to. No, most of the time, you'll hear, even in civil cases that are like being sued, it's not criminal. They'll say can't comment because it's pending litigation.
Exactly.
So, and this is kind of why. So anyways, so I get into the tinfoil stuff right now. But these are rookie mistakes. They really shouldn't be doing this. I understand it from a legal perspective, and the Supreme Court in 1966 laid out the rules, and they're breaking them already. So,
And the chat, our local chat seems to agree. There seems to be something sus about the whole situation.
of course, and we'll certainly be digging into that a lot more probably on Saturday at 7 p.m.
Mhm.
Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern, and Michael Yon will be coming on the show at least a couple times because he's got perspectives that a lot
Yeah.
of people don't understand. They're not
Perspectives
privy
and
to.
experience.
That's right too.
Yeah.
I like that experience. All right, so let's jump into some more of this. Thank you to Wiretap, our good friend there, and I believe he's joining us on Saturday as well. So
Oh,
we're
great.
going to be able to see him. I believe his name's Jason, if I recall
Yeah, he was
correctly.
on because he was on before, right?
Yeah, we had
David
him
Nichols.
on our Coots coverage when we were debunking the Fifth Estates episode about the Coots Ben. He was on there. So expect him and Curtis Stone, and we'll have somebody else joining us on Saturday. But here's the problem. Okay, so Canadian Anti-Hate Network is not a good organization. They've put it in their documentation for their funding that they are targeting far right. If they were about anti-hate, then it would be targeting far left and far right at the same time. In fact, you wouldn't have to say far left or far right. You would just say extremism and hate. You could kind of do that, but clearly they are a tool for one side against the other side, and they're government funded. And this is a big problem. You're going to hear me talk a lot about them because I see them for who they are, along with the Center for Hate, Extremism, Bias, or something like that. Hate, Bias, and Extremism, where Barbara Perry is the director of that one. Those two organizations, plus Cult Montreal, or MTL, these are organizations that really need to have a review of why we're funding them, we being the taxpayers.
Yeah.
So Wiretap here is highlighting here again how, and this one's scary, how the Canadian Anti-Hate Network was asking the government to go ahead and pay for protesters creating the mob. They said the government funding behind, and what do they call them? Something democratic. I'll get to it in a second here. A pro-democracy movement. So they want the government to pay for protesters, counter-protest, freedom people, or anything on the right, because they're calling them extremism and Islamophobia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, like when government gets involved in that. And we just had Bruce on, and he reposted this as well. So I wanted to remind you all, just remember, Bruce Party says democracy means ruled by mob. And this proposal from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is asking for government-funded mob creation. That should send shivers down your spine.
Yeah, it does.
Or
it
up,
does.
down or up, whichever direction you want. This is an attempt by the elite, as Bruce puts it, the elite are the ones of power, to shield themselves using paid mobs. So torches and pitchforks. This would be the people from the land taking on the landowner or the king. This would be like the landowner or the king paying for their own mob and kind of hiding them because you already have security. You already have the police. You already have, if they're getting out of control, you can take care of it. This is another layer of shielding yourself from the public. So this is scary.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's at right now, but the request was put in. The video's right there. You can take a listen. And the way that they use words to try and convince that they are the good guys is scary. Because again, if they were the good guys, they'd be tackling all forms, which Trump, by the way, started to tackle yesterday. We'll get into that as well.
Yeah, and what we've seen with these what can appear to be paid for mobs is that they don't actually know why a lot of them they're there. They're there to protest for some of them, and like, okay, so why are you protesting? And like,
Oh, you're talking about the participants. Yeah.
yeah. So those who are there with their with their salary, why are you there? What? Fair enough, you want to protest; it's your right, but why? What's this particular protest about? And some of them don't know. Like we've seen this whole man on the street do interviews, and yeah, they have no idea.
Yeah, Nico exposed one of them. He had a guest on.
That's right.
Yeah, it was Rent a Crowd. It's a company in the U.S. It was exactly that. You can rent a crowd. And Nico was asking him questions, basically kind of getting him to justify, like, why would you do this for political reasons? Like, what's the actual purpose of this? Because it's meant to mislead people. Like, if you rented a crowd to provide a lineup at your store, you're misleading people. If you're renting a crowd to come and protest, you're misleading people. Like, the whole purpose of the business is mislead, because it should be organic. It should be natural. And it's not. This guy didn't answer questions, and this was a frustrating interview for Nico. Good on him for getting him on the show. but that exists.
Yeah, and there's a difference between trying to increase sales at your business, and then actually trying to create a crowd to counter protest.
Right.
Big
Right. Well,
difference there.
missionaries is what they would be called if you were in war. Is when you hire somebody to come fight for you, and they're not your people, because you kind of don't have the people anymore. So you would hire missionaries to come and battle for you. And the challenge there is sometimes the missionary people would turn on you because they're just paid. They're not actually there for reasons other than money. But in either case, this is gross that even a request was put in, but this is a liberal government. And we're going to see a little bit later why this is so important to keep an eye on. So early, the news came out that Nexstar was polling or preempting the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. Now, at this stage, when I posted this, it wasn't canceled, because what preempting means is on their networks of 32 stations, they were going to put something else on. That meant Jimmy Kimmel was still live. He was still being recorded and produced at that time. So I said, fantastic, the lines were crossed, and now examples are being set. Disney should cancel the show and apologize to viewers. And then minutes after that, Disney came out and said, that's it. Disney has now officially removed the Jimmy Kimmel from air nationwide. So Jimmy Kimmel has been canceled. The canceller becomes the cancelee. He absolutely did a lot of that crap. And it's kind of, I know, karma's real. I believe in karma for sure. So that's all, folks, for Jimmy. Now, they've absolutely are backing him. That crowd is calling this wrong. And
How can you?
Disney, boycott Disney is now trending amongst that
please
group.
do. Join our side for that. Please do.
It's one thing that we can all whoa, okay, we can save money on signs now, because we all agree on this one. Yeah, boycott Disney. The right is boycotting them for their material that they're putting in there, their bending of the knee. And now Disney's getting bit by the exact same people that pushed them underneath to begin with. So hopefully this could be the return to normalization for Disney. Maybe they say, okay, screw this. We're going to stay out of politics. We're going to get back into good programming for the young people and stick to what works before, which is to be wholesome and honest, not this other crap. So we'll see where this goes. But boy, they came out hard on that one.
There's a fun comment here from Crystal in our local chat. I think it's funny how liberals were all for people getting fired for talking about a bad virus or a fake vaccine, but all bent out of shape when the bar they set is now being applied to them, celebrating a public assassination.
Well, in fairness, Crystal, yes, they were the cancel culture. Yes, they were going after people's jobs, and they still are. There was a group that went to the Edmonton Vigil for Charlie Kirk saying, hey, wouldn't it be terrible if the employers found out that they're here? Well, you're on the wrong side. So I don't think employers would have cared that people were individuals, but there's an example there that they're still trying to pull that card. They're still trying,
exactly.
But the big difference here is people are speaking truth and losing their job. So when she's talking about vaccine and stuff like that, they were speaking truth and losing their job. In this case, this is vile, reprehensible cheering and celebration of a death. The tool is the same, losing your job over what you said. But it's not the same what was being said. One group should still have been able to say that. I don't want the vaccine. I stand against it. I don't think it's safe. It's still true today. In 2 years' time, celebrating Charlie Kirk's death will still be vile. It's not going to become true suddenly. So what's being canceled for is very different. One was the right reason to speak. And the other one is, speak if you want, but you'll lose your job.
And on that note, is the comment that I mentioned yesterday when you and I were in the evening. Look, you're entitled to your opinion, even if I think it's vile, or I could have an opinion. You can think it's vile. Why are you putting it on social?
It's silly.
Why are you putting it on?
The mental breakdowns too.
We've gone from, hey, here's a picture of my food that I want to share with the world, to, oh, I'm feeling upset. Let me set up my camera and film myself crying in my car. Or yelling or screaming. Like, why? Why do other people need to hear this or see it?
Well,
that's the thing I don't get.
Here's the thing, though. It's not people. They're bots. Like, you got to listen to Jeff Evely on this one. Russia, China, other countries definitely fund bots. But what they do is, like, the first person to do that, got thousands of likes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then other people saw that and they're getting what they believe to be attention, but it's not real attention. These
Get
aren't
that
real people.
dopamine hit, because that's really what they're
Exactly.
looking for.
And that was a way to kind of create this delusion and dysphoria and make it more public, which will then, this is called radicalization. This is how other people, like the potential shooter here, became that way. It wasn't like you got a flyer in the mail and it's because
It's a culture
this is
we're
being amplified.
encouraging, and
So,
I don't want to anymore.
yes, to answer your question, a good chunk of it was artificially propped up. And then the dopamine and the attention, their egos and narcissism all kicked in pretty hard.
And it's setting the precedent, because now they think that's how I need to behave. Like
Correct.
the liberal behind the guy with the MAGA hat, like just going off.
That's a radicalization.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They think it's acceptable now that I can do this because this is how I should be. This is how I can be. I'm like,
Great. No,
geez.
we're on the same page there. I'm just trying to highlight to you that the rent a crowd exists online.
Yeah.
All right. So the rent and applause also existed. And that was what's kind of feeding that. Like if they got what we get, which is shadow banned, and we get like when we're coming out, we get restricted. We don't get propelled.
Canceled YouTube
if that
channel.
happened to the first person that went like, oh, crazy, you wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have developed.
That's what
But here we go. Donald Trump has made the big step. Finally, is designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization. They're trying to community notes him, because they're saying Antifa is a movement or an ideology, not a group. Nope, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Donald Trump knows more than the community notes people. And they're even saying major terrorist organization isn't a definition. Okay, that's an adjective. Terrorist organization is a definition. But they're just being ridiculous. So I downvoted it because, no, they absolutely are. Okay, they absolutely are. What you're going to learn over the next little bit is they're funded, they're organized, they're large, and they're dangerous. So call out to Mark Carney. I spelled his name wrong here accidentally.
Mark with the French mark.
Oui. But that actually might have helped this post, because I think when I post about Mark Carney himself, I'm suppressed. I'm not joking.
Yeah, no, I know.
I used to get a lot more reach before he announced his leadership, and I came out on him hard. But anyways, Mark Carney, it's now your move. You got to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization, because whether it was Proud Boys under Biden or other groups under Biden, the Canadian government also did it. So Proud Boys is a good example.
Yeah.
So under Biden, they designated them as a terrorist group. So Canada did as well. Let's see if they do this as well.
Yeah.
I'm also saying stop funding Canadian Anti-Hate Network, Center on Hate, Bias, and Extremism, and Call to Montreal. And this is just the beginning. Yeah. Because there's a few of these.
And our man on the street, Chris Stacey, will really be the litmus test on that, to see if Canada clamps down on Antifa, and to see what his interactions on the street are like, because they are all over him.
100%. And here's something that will happen. Trump will have to put pressure on Canada, because this now Antifa is considered a terrorist organization. We're harboring terrorists, and we can become a national security threat even more than we are right now. This is something I highlighted before Trump was elected. I talked to Dr. Robert Malone and others on the election day saying, look, he's going to designate Canada as a threat to the U.S. And this is likely going to be another one of the reasons why he can do that. If we are harboring Antifa here, they're going to designate us.
I love this comment here from Derek. Follow Nico's move and call him Marks Carney.
Yeah, Marks Carney for sure. And Nico, I'll address with you. Oh boy. Some people that, I'm going to have to give him a heads up on that guy. Anyways, Alberta, so Lusakic, I'm blocked, so I can't repost this stuff, so I have to screenshot and put it up there. But anyways, he is now trying to say that people feel threatened and are fearful of signing his petition. That's baloney. This thing is very private. It doesn't go public. And he even points that out, because he's trying to say, hey, don't be afraid. I will make sure it doesn't go to the government, and it's not going to go public. Well, that part's true. What's not true is there's actually people afraid of this. He's just not hitting his numbers, and he knows it. So he's already starting the blame game, because he's definitely a leftist. This guy wants to be NDP all over again, even though he claims to be conservative. I don't believe he's a conservative. He's not acting like one. The signatures aren't there because the support for him is not there. That's why. There's nobody threatening anybody. There's no cancel culture going on at all. As you saw in Breton, the
Yeah.
table was there. Nobody was being harassed in any way, shape, or form. They sat right next to APP. That's how safe everything is, because this isn't how we handle things here. There is no
There were no
fear.
chairs flying at each other or arguing.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
He
Of
just
course
doesn't have
not.
the numbers. So this
Yeah.
is one more indication that he doesn't have the numbers. So, and I also think what he's doing, though, should be investigated by Elections Alberta, because he has done a lot of lying. This is an example. Nobody's fearful.
Mhm.
But he also said that the separatist movement has $500 million loan. And that's not true. We talked to the APP. They laughed. They wish they had that
Yeah,
kind
they
of
could.
money. That's not true at all. But he went on to record this, put it up on Facebook as a way to solicit donations. So I do hope Elections Alberta takes a closer look at some of the ways that he's been canvassing, because there are rules, certain things he cannot do, like lie.
Yeah.
So he's kind of maybe setting himself up for an investigation by the very people he's working with. So tread lightly, man, because lying isn't a way to gain support, and it is a way to gain the wrong attention. All right, then Dr. Anna just joined us, so we'll be with you just a second here. We got Chris Dacey. He's doing great work, man on the street stuff. Go watch his video. He interviewed Marco Mancino. Marco Mancino claimed he doesn't know who Canadian Anti-Hate Network is. That's bogus on many levels. Even ChatGPT understands that Marco Mancino knows who Canada Anti-Hate Network is.
Mendocino.
Whatever.
Okay.
I will get the names correct of people that deserve it. Paula. But there's several examples. The Coots, the convoy, he came out on February 16th saying that there's extremism. He was using the report out of the Canadian Anti-Network to do that. His office clarified that later. The Public Order Emergency Commission itself, POEC, he testified there. He continued that narrative. Again, that narrative came from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Inside his department, there's reports from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network in his department. So either he's really incompetent or he's a liar or both. So there's no way that didn't happen. What we'll do now is we're going to go to our guest and we'll continue this tomorrow, the rest of this tomorrow. There's some good stuff there. All right. So Dr. Anna, she's a wonderful doctor, anesthesiologist. Oh, see, look, I kind of got that out in BC. I think we met her first at a Pat King event, and she's got great posts online. She's got great information she wants to share. So I reached out to her and asked her to join us. And let's give her a bit of a round of applause, because it's 6:30 a.m. for her, because she is in Pacific time. So good morning, Dr. Anna.
Good morning, you guys. Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Jason. Your podcast was one of the first ones that I did. And, it took a lot of courage to do that, because as you can see in Canada, you don't really hear frontline workers or nurses, anyone complaining, do you?
No, because they get worried, right? They get canceled, they get threatened. If you put up a billboard saying I support JQ rallying, you get in trouble.
You open your mouth and you say anything of, in your opinion. So that's what I've been using, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Have you seen a change, though? Things are changing now. You're getting a little bit more able to speak.
Well, the people that have spoken up have all been fired, right? So, you have to take that risk. You have to be willing to lose your privileges at the health authority that you work at.
Can you go ahead and take us through your story again to refresh everybody? Because we have a good morning audience here that would love to hear what got you, going in this.
How I got going? I finished medical school a long time ago in 1991 in University of Manitoba. And it's interesting that a lot of people that speak up happen to be from University of Manitoba. A lot of very vocal doctors are from there. And I don't know why that is. I think we have had very strong medical training and very good medical ethics training. And so when something doesn't feel right, Kulvinder Kaur, a lot of other people have said something and they face the consequences. And for me, I was a clinical anesthesiologist. I finished my training at UBC. I worked at Vancouver General, St. Paul's. I worked at 16 different mainland hospitals. And then I came to the island and I did a lot of pediatrics, general anesthesia. So I worked with all the specialties. So anesthesia, a little bit like emergency medicine, we have a really good view of what is going on within the hospital with every single surgical specialty, internal medicine. So when they tell you one narrative and you see something else, we generally stay quiet. We're behind the scenes in our masks, but we're good observers of the situation. And I used to run the critical care units, so that's the ventilators and I think my Instagram account originally got canceled because I was criticizing pharma and the way pharma did it. And if something is so life-saving, do you really need to be advertising it so aggressively to physicians? And that's exactly what happened with Pfizer and Otsuka, which is another company. They used this very aggressive marketing tactic and AI and virtual medical education. So what they're calling virtual medical education isn't really medical education at all. It's just pharma marketing funded propaganda. And what they do is they get you to sign up for, because doctors have to do hundreds of hours of continuing medical education in order to remain certified in each province. And I can't remember, but the Royal College is where MOCOMP, it's called, Maintenance of Competence. And it's up to you to decide what is in and what is not within your scope of practice. Obviously, if your colleagues notice something, they will generally point that out. But people can go on for years being pretty incompetent. and nobody says anything. And I also realized, with all the challenges I've faced and speaking up, patients don't stand a chance in the Canadian medical system, because if things go wrong, and medical error is common because our systems are overwhelmed, they're overburdened, plus the bureaucracy is just way too heavy. So if you can't speak up as a doctor, as a nurse, as to what is going on, and you're silenced by your health authority, and you're saying that you can't handle this volume of patients or this, so drug errors will happen. And medical errors are probably the third cause of morbidity, mortality in hospitals. It's becoming very prevalent. And in my health authority, they were switching over from paper charts to electronic charts. And so, of course, medical errors were, what I started focusing on was mental health drugs, because I was looking at all these prescribing cascades. So people were on 5, 6, 7 different medications, and you kind of wonder who prescribed all of this. And it was multiple prescribers, and it wasn't really charted properly. And nurses in BC are now diagnosing, injecting, and prescribing. And there was a lot of medical error. And if a patient decided that something was wrong, or if they were hurt within the system, whether someone died because of a medical error or they were irreversibly harmed, you go through the usual channels. You go through quality assurance, patient care quality office, the ombudsman. You write your letters and you're all irritated about it. And of course, for me, something happened with a family member during COVID lockdowns. So I started writing all these letters, and I'm like, this is wrong and that's wrong. And that just got me escorted out of the hospital by the security. And that was that, please give up your access card and pass. I'd worked there for over 30 years. It was a really nice exit, and it really shocking, actually. And
That's terrible.
So then you write letters to the college. That's the next step. And nothing happens. Just I got a little reprimand saying, don't speak about mental health. That's not in the scope of your practice. Well, I think that's stupid. Mental health is just a very broad topic. I'm internally medicine trained. I understand pharmacology very well. I understand, bad prescribing. And so, and it's seen as unprofessional to disparage your colleagues if you see somebody doing something wrong. So the public really isn't very well protected. Our self-regulating organizations, whether that be the College of Alberta Physicians or College of BC, College of Ontario, there's no oversight. They're bodies that protect themselves. And all doctors have very good malpractice insurance with the Canadian Medical Protective Association. So there are some specialties like obstetrics, obviously, and neurosurgery that pay very high malpractice insurance. And psychiatry pays because the patients are crazy, obviously, right? Or drug addicted or whatever. And honestly, I'm so disappointed in my colleagues. or I don't even call them my colleagues. I'm disappointed in people that are prescribing some of these very potent medications for poor, homeless, drug addicted, depressed, anxious people, kids with autism, kids under ministry care, seniors. We've lost our humanity. And, I don't really care how overwhelmed everybody is. If you're so overwhelmed, get off the treadmill, go do something else, and let the people that are not overwhelmed do their job and hold them accountable when they screw up.
Yeah, this one hits hard to me, Dr. Anna, because both my mother and one of my brothers are no longer with us because of this. My mother in Saskatchewan was heavily medicated because of her mental illness, to the point where she had an early death. And then my brother, who's younger than me, 18 years younger than me, his name was Jonathan. His father was not there. He was an alcoholic. My mother was also not there physically. She was a different province. And so schools persuaded him to go on to drugs, to
Mhm.
control him. I still
Mhm.
remember seeing this drug packet. It was like a little book, had a lot of cartoons on it, let him know which day to take what and all this kind of stuff. And he was so medicated that he rode his bike into traffic, not on purpose, but because he wasn't there, and we lost him that way. So
Jason,
this whole thing bothers me quite a bit.
I see it as medical malpractice, but I also see it as system failure. So I believe a lot of our systems in Canada have completely failed families, whether that be the justice system. Young boys who get into trouble have two options. They can go to the hospital and for their mental health, or they can go to jail. And at this point, jail is far safer than the hospitals. And that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, of course, our education system. Our teachers are overwhelmed. We've integrated kids with learning disabilities in with other children, and it's simply not working. There are some children that need extra time, extra care, extra attention, and you can't put children that have severe developmental disabilities or learning delays with the rest of the class, because it's disruptive for everybody and they're not getting the attention they need. Parents are a lot of parents are divorced. I think our divorce rates are, 60% or something. So children come from broken homes. Kids are struggling. They're certainly not mentally ill. I hate that word, mental illness. Their brain looks like every other brain. They're struggling. They're struggling with their emotions. They may have been neglected. The parental, parents are struggling themselves in Canada to make ends meet. Kids are left to their own devices on social media and technology. Facebook is toxic. Facebook has 90% of their money comes from advertising, and a lot of that is pharma advertising, even though it's not explicitly stated. This Pfizer funded this or Lilly funded this. They do it through nonprofits, patient support groups, numbered companies, all sorts of things. And they'll target children. So there's a company even called Society of Valued Minds. It's an Otsuka company. It's an antipsychotic company that specifically targets children online. Or are you having suicide? Do you feel this way? Call 988. They collect their information. And honestly, this whole internet psychosis is something that can happen. Imagine children left to their own devices, 4 years locked down on computers, on social media, talking to their computers and getting in trouble with unusual people. You essentially have the entire world online in your bedroom, right? And all sorts of things can happen. You can order drugs online. You can get them on Facebook. You can get them on Instagram. You've got Indian pharmacies popping up, directly delivered to your door, discreetly selling ketamine, selling testosterone, selling God knows what. And it's all the whole tech pharma collaboration. Simply business, nothing personal, just business. But that's what happened during these lockdowns. And now we have back to school, enormous class sizes, teachers are not supported. And now we have finally, one of my patients who has a child with autism gets to see a psychiatrist. Everybody puts psychiatry up on some sort of pedestal, when in fact, and you know what, I'm going to say this, a lot of them are probably the
Okay, so her connection for a few times now. It's kind of dropped there.
I wanted to
Okay,
repeat
so,
that.
so Dr. Anna, can you repeat that? Because you said psychiatry, you kind of cut out there. So psychiatry, a lot of it is.
You can't hide in anesthesia or surgery. If you're incompetent, the world sees it. Your team of 10 people see that you're incompetent. Okay? You can't screw up a gallbladder over and over and over again because it's obvious. As an anesthetist, you'll kill someone. Someone will see that. In psychiatry, it's extremely easy to hide. These diagnoses are very subjective. If you look at the people that I feel are problems, a lot of them have graduated from China, Nigeria, India, Pakistan. What do our colleges know about their credentials? Is the training the same as Canadian training? I do not believe it is. And when you see some of the sloppy prescribing that's happening and how many of them are working for the drug industry, getting free product honorariums and kickbacks and being educated by one of your drug reps who flies in from Alberta, her name is Veronique, she works for Otsuka Canada, flies into BC in order to educate the nurses on the benefits of convenient injections for mental health or whatever, we have a problem. And self-regulation is not working because if I call someone out, well, I'm speaking out of the scope of my practice. I'm just an anesthesiologist. And if I call out their names, well, that's very unprofessional to be disparaging colleagues. Well, guess what? Those colleagues are incompetent. And they're not my colleagues. Frankly, it's embarrassing. And if you look at some of their history and you look at where they graduated from, and I grew up in Nigeria, so I can tell you the standard of care. Yes, go ahead.
I know, I did too. I did
Katrina.
too. Yeah,
So
I grew. Yeah, I'm born and raised in Nigeria.
Look at, so I was in Zaria, but my background is I was born in Poland to a medical family. My grandfather was a military surgeon. My grandmother ran the medical school. She was one of the first sort of lady doctors running school in Toruń, where Copernicus was born. My dad was head of obstetrics and gynecology in Manitoba at one point. He's older now. My mother worked for World Health in water purification. She's a chemist in Nigeria when World Health wasn't corrupt, because World Health has lost its way as well under Tedros. And pharma, unfortunately, the whole pharma agenda, it's about making money. It's not about making people healthy, okay? And let's leave the COVID shots out of it. Because you know what? That's what's happened. We've become divided because the messaging has been so problematic. And people have lost complete trust in the medical system because the system is so down your throat of, you must do this. These are evidence-based guidelines. Well, bullshit. If you look at the history of medicine and you look at the history of evidence-based guidelines and how we got here, and you look at medical ethics and you actually, use your critical brain a little bit, even the history of psychiatry that started under the Nazis, it's system failure over and over again. And our rights are being stripped in Canada and people are just going along with it. And I'm amazed the doctors of BC and the doctors aren't getting together and saying something. The internal medicine group in my hospital, they had an issue with the hospitalists, whatever. It's always about money. But, of course, the CEO of the hospital said, well, we will report you to the college. Well, who cares? Okay, if you're not doing anything wrong and you're speaking the truth and you're speaking up for yourself and you've got the evidence to show that this is a problem, who cares if they report you to the college? Go ahead. Ever since I left anesthesia in 2017 and I started my own cosmetic medical business, because that's the only thing I could do privately in Canada. Everything else you can't do privately. You can't do private medicine in Canada. I call it lifestyle management, and I did it for my own mental health because I was very tired. And I started a business. It's been going great. But, I see what I've learned is how pharma markets to dermatology and plastic surgery. And it is disgusting. Okay. So they sell your data to the drug companies. There's a company, Allergan, AbbVie has been doing this forever, since 2008. You sign up for points, Groupons, coupons for your Botox and your filler, and your data goes to Allergan, and that can be distributed all over the world, wherever Allergan is. But at least with that program, the patient signs informed consent. They consent to sell their data to the drug company, okay? That doesn't happen in Canadian early intervention and psychosis started. Whenever you see the word psychosis, what a bullshit word, okay? Psychosis is like cognitive decline or something. I mean, that can happen because you're raped. That can happen because you haven't eaten. That can happen because you're stressed. You know, I could be labeled psychotic. I was talking to a psychiatrist. He says, you know, I could label you psychotic and have you locked up. Like, it's so arbitrary. And what we're seeing on the streets and what nurses are maybe calling psychosis, well, a lot of that is just poverty and drug addiction, okay? That's not a reason to inject a medication and say, oh, you're going to be good now. That's preposterous. That's actually harming people. And I can't name the name, but I got a call from a person who's very high up in the BC Centre for Substance Use. And because that's a government funded position, he said to me, don't use my name, but what we're doing in BC with giving antipsychotics for drug addicts for their psychosis and for people that are poor, we're actually making addiction far worse. And he sent me all the papers. So, you know, cocaine addiction, alcohol addiction, methamphetamine addiction gets far worse with treatment with antipsychotics. And why? Because the sedating ones make them want to use more drugs. And the ones like aripiprazole that they're injecting at my health authority, where they've injected 6,000 people, that drug has warnings about compulsive behavior. It gives you terrible akathisia. You saw what happened during the Lapu Lapu festival. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's saying anything. Okay, that boy was getting injected.
I want to add a comment here that we got. Hi from Manitoba. I'm a retired nurse. I've seen many international doctors, and I too wonder if their training is the same as ours. Some of the doctors are dangerous and incompetent.
So what happened is we do very poor planning in Canada. Brian Day has been talking for 20 years trying to get some sort of extra public-private partnership, more options for care, okay? And I'm very much for our public system. I think it's very important to try and preserve that system. But I also think people need options. And, you know, if you're going for a hernia operation and you can afford to have that hernia done this week, why are people told they can't do that? Why not? Why can't? And people say, oh, you know, all the good doctors are going to work in the private clinics. No. I had that option a long time ago. And you know what? You don't want to do just plastic surgery all day or hernias all day. No, most people will not want to do that. So, you know, Canadian trained doctors go to school for a long time. Many have 15 years of postgraduate education. The last thing they want to do is be putting in, you know, IUDs all day long or taking out hernias all day long and running a business. Believe me, they're not going to want to do that. They're still going to want to do true medicine. And most of us went into medicine in order to help people and to save lives and to first do no harm. And so I've taken the risk, and you know, you've allowed me to do that the first time, Jason. I've spoken up many times now, but I've always had to do it internationally because I am censored in Canada. There's no question these videos are not shown. My Instagram accounts have disappeared twice, so has Facebook. And, you know, there's, you know, you have to speak up when you see something very wrong. And because we do very poor planning, so we got rid of rotating internships in 1993. We allowed hospitalists to now run the hospital. We got rid of the GPs within the hospital, and we didn't open medical school spots up. There's no more medical, we don't have doctors, but we're not training more doctors, we're not training more nurses. And all we did is we allowed, all of a sudden we panic and we're saying, okay, let's let 150 Nigerian doctors into Canada, to Western Canada. And what did they do? Well, they went and opened up private clinics where they're charging $5,000 to see a patient, or they went to work for the drug company. Oluboka in Calgary is working for Otsuka. And they started doing research. And, you know, it's very easy to do research on patients that can't fight for themselves. So children in foster care don't stand a chance in this province. And they just simply don't stand a chance. They have no one to help them. And these group homes are now in the community. Everything is top secret. You don't even know where they are. Everything is hidden behind. If I try and release some charts that I have access to, I will be reprimanded. I'll be told that I'm being unprofessional and patient confidentiality. I'm breaching that, and I'm breaching all the, the Health Information Privacy and Protection Act. And that came about actually in 1996 because he wanted to keep his sister's records closed in perpetuity, and that was Rosemary Kennedy's lobotomy records. And so that's why if a person dies in the hospital or if someone is disabled, usually families can't get the records. Those records are sealed. And if somebody is over the age of 17, you can't advocate for them. And we have all these laws in BC, the Infants Act, the Mental Health Act, the Adult Guardianship Act, where essentially the patient is on their own and the system can do whatever they want. So you imagine you turn for help, or you go to some clinic where there's some nurse practitioner, or you go to the hospital and you land yourself in with a psychiatrist who's incompetent. Well, good luck to you. And then there's no continuity. So multiple prescribers, multiple medications. I think something like 50% of foster kids are quite heavily medicated, what I'm hearing from people. And I mean, that's gross. And in BC, something like 50% are also undergoing gender affirming care. Well, that's grosser too. Again, why is that agenda happening? It is a pharma driven agenda.
It's a sterilization too. They
is.
just don't want these people to go ahead and
It's
have a
money.
life.
It's making money off of the most vulnerable who cannot fight for themselves. And you can imagine what happened to seniors. If they're closed down for 4 years and they're polydrugged and they're giving antipsychotics left, right, and center, antipsychotics should not be prescribed by most GPs and certainly not by nurses in this province. I think that's insane. These are the most dangerous drugs to the brain. They're dopamine agonists. In the case of Abilify, it's an agonist-antagonist. They're far more dangerous even than SSRIs. And you saw on Tucker Carlson and Joseph Witt-Doerring some of the issues with SSRIs. Finally, Joseph Witt-Doerring had an audience on Tucker Carlson and millions of people saw that. These drugs are meant to be used short-term, very short-term, weaned, and under supervision. Not, children medicated so they're sedated and compliant and can't even process information, and lifelong customers out of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to bring up your blog as well because it's a great place for people to get information. I put it in a private chat so you can share that. And this is what you sent me recently, which is caught my attention, because you're whistleblowing completely on the pharmaceutical marketing and healthcare policy timeline here. Can you kind of take us through this? We have like 2 minutes left. I'm so sorry for this. It seems so short, but we'll have you back.
So this was when that movie came out, Pain Hustlers and Painkiller, and you had the drug reps that came to the office and that were hookers and, giving samples. And that is exactly what happens, okay? Exactly. And it happens in cardiology, it happens in urology, it happens in absolutely every single internal medicine specialty. And it's up to the doctor to say yes or no. And the good doctors will tell you pharma is a scourge. I don't want to see the drug reps, okay? And others, like I say, from other places will do whatever. And you know what? In Canada, we don't have sunshine legislation. We don't have the Sunshine Act, and we don't know who gets paid what and why by industry. That includes patient support groups, nonprofits, so on and so forth. And these guidelines then come about, and I see psychiatry as complete BS pseudoscience. And what we're doing to people right now, because we're allowing nurses to prescribe these drugs, is absolutely, I would say, criminal. And I don't know how to stop it.
I just had questions like, so is it because nurses are being forced to step up and prescribe and treat further than beyond what they typically do because there is a lack of support from the doctors, there aren't enough doctors, or it's just why are nurses doing
I believe
this?
our government would prefer to have nurses, first of all, as a cost-saving measure, right? There's more control over nurses because nurses are employed by the health authorities. Doctors are not employed by the health authorities. Doctors are independent contractors for health authorities. We have rights. We have our own doctors union, Doctors of BC, and the whole, somebody said BC has no doctors. That is not true. BC has doctors, but We need to, first of all, we haven't opened up medical school spots. We have pushed out doctors that maybe want to work, but they're over 65. The college does not really support that. There is an ageism component. And, you know, even if you're no longer a competent, maybe, well, oh my goodness, you still have so much to offer with workup or getting a medical history, or, you know, in orthopedics, you can do consultations. There's so many things people can do. So part of it is also doctors need, in surgery, you need operating room time. So if the hospital limits the operating room time, obviously there are no doctors because you can't get to see a doctor, because if you can't operate, why would you be seeing a whole bunch of orthopedic patients if you can't do anything about anything? So it is a system that isn't being honest with the public.
Well, you
We
said you're not
certainly could do better. We certainly could do better, but nobody is saying anything, and we're protecting our, you know, the $40 billion that we put into healthcare. It gets allotted to each health authority, and then it trickles down to the patient. By the time it reaches the patient, well, there's no bed, there's no incentive to do work, the money is gone. And so our funding models, our systems are broken, and we need to start addressing these systems and be honest about it, and be honest about, you know, the drug industry. And Joel Lexchen has written this, a book called Doctors in Denial, and it's very worth reading, because the doctors have to stay true to themselves too, and say, you know, ultimately they're the ones that write the prescription. And a lot of things happened during COVID because it was lockdown. We integrated telemedicine. Well, telemedicine is a very poor way of doing medicine. If you can't feel a patient's skin, turgor, pulse, forget it. It's a useless way of doing medicine. And so why are we funding TELUS? I don't know. We're just giving money to TELUS to keep funding telemedicine. That was an emergency measure during lockdowns. We're not on lockdowns anymore. I thought it would be a good idea for pharmacists to also be able to write a few prescriptions, renew prescriptions. Well, that's really backfired. Pharmacists have started their own tech companies, and they're selling drugs online directly to the consumer. One company is Up Guys, where you can get finasteride for your hair loss directly from the pharmacy, okay? Pocket Pills, all these different companies selling pills. You can get Ozempic delivered discreetly to your door. It's dangerous because a lot of medications have drug interactions, and without someone overseeing all of that, it can be very dangerous. That includes combining your supplements with your drugs, so on and so forth. That's called prescribing cascades. So,
right. I mean, we've all seen the horrors of the side effects when you see drug advertisements online. You know, could lead to this, that, the other. It's like, wow. So yeah, knowing if you're going to be taking something that may interact negatively with your current medication, yeah, people need to be aware of it.
No, we are out of time. But one of the things you said was you're not sure what to do. You're doing it, Dr. Anna. This is exactly what you should be doing. Telling everybody what's going on, writing blogs, getting out there, coming on shows like this, and keep speaking. And we definitely need to have you come back at a longer segment, because our audience wants to know more. We're just out of time this morning. So thank you for joining us. Do you want to kind of close?
You know, it's amazing to me how many really good doctors are very scared. And they're so scared of the college. And I just said to someone said to me, because she's off right now, work, and she says, well, what capacity are you seeing patients in? And I said, well, I'm doing my cosmetic medicine, but I'm also doing, with my experience, I'm doing what I call lifestyle management. And I have to put a plug in for one of my very senior, most brilliant colleagues, Dr. Peter Duncan, who was just a brilliant anesthesiologist. And he said to me, Anna, call it lifestyle management, because the minute you call it lifestyle medicine, the college is going to go, oh, medicine, what kind of medicine are you doing? I'm doing lifestyle management. Sleep, eat, exercise, don't smoke, don't drink too much alcohol, stop vaping, start walking. And you know, polypharmacy and all these medications, they're not going to solve anything, okay? That's people that are living to 100 are not taking 4 different drugs.
And on that note, I want to add here, Dr. Anna, MD, for Canada Health Chief. That's a vote for you right there.
I don't think I could do. I thought about politics, and I spoke to one of my neighbors who is a politician, and I said, do politicians ever tell the truth? And he said to me, not usually. And I said, if they get caught, he says, if they get caught, yes, they massage it. Okay, so I'm far too brutally honest to go into politics because we're not being told the truth is being distorted, and all the political parties are entirely complicit. As you can see with my blog, this has gone on now under liberals, conservatives, whatever. Everybody's complicit, and they say whatever they need to say in order to get elected.
I think somebody has a
Plan of
button
how
on
to
it.
stay popular and whatever. I'm not counting on politicians. Healthcare should not be political. And Canadians, when they start talking, you'll see that more of us think the same, along the same lines, and we have far more in common than these political parties are telling us, dividing us.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Anna. We do got to run. We got children to go take care of. But I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Lots of good information, and we're going to have you come back where we're not so time limited. So we'll do a full interview with you. Thank you for all your hard work. You got my attention several times. I really appreciate you coming back, and we'll do it again.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more of that. People speaking up exactly like that. Very intelligent, articulate, get it out. I really did not like having to cut it there because we do have to go.
Yeah, we do.
But thank you very much for hanging out with us, everybody. We're going to have her back. We'll have a 2-hour interview with her because she's just scratching the surface, especially when it comes to how long this has been going on. We've all seen that movie where the marketing of the drugs, they were using prostitutes. Yeah, we saw that. And it's very true. Very true. And they tried to put JJ on drugs, sat us into a little chair in
The school did, yeah.
Yeah. And said, look, he's difficult to handle. It's because he was bored. The curriculum was so behind what he was doing. He was bored. And he hasn't had a single drug.
No.
And no need for it. He's now 11, doing great. And good thing we didn't listen to the teacher on that one.
No kidding. Like, give your head a shake, woman. Shame on you.
Yeah, as soon as we sat there, I walked down and said, Kate, we're moving him.
Yep. And we did.
We didn't even make it to the car. We're like, yeah, he's got to leave the school.
Yep. Changed schools, got a better teacher, all was well.
And then homeschool.
And then homeschool, got an even better
teacher. Kind of like her. Yeah. We have parent-teacher conferences all the time now.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for hanging out with this one. Share this one out because Dr. Anna, she definitely laid out a lot of truth there. Doctors are scared, and I'm sure somewhere they're working on a pill for that. That's how crazy this industry is. But thank you for being here with us, and make sure you share this out.
Yep. Have a great day, everyone.
Love you all, and God bless.